of distress and find that you really can't think how to bring yourself back under control. So the breathing exercise is quite simple. You want to slow your breathing down, because I don't know how many of you would have noticed that once you start to get a place of stress and distress, you start to hyperventilate, you start to breathe faster. You're breathing faster, but you're not breathing enough oxygen to get to your brain. And we need oxygen to the brain. So what we do is to slow breathing down. Try to breathe on the count of 4, like you're doing music. So you breathe in for the count of 4, hold it for the count of 4, hold that breath. Then you breathe out for the count of 4, hold it for the count of 4. So it's in, 4, hold, 4, out, 4, hold, 4. And then you do that for 10 times. Now, each breath there is about probably 16 seconds. So within a minute, you probably breathe about 5 or 6 times per minute at that rate. So you do that until for about 10 times. That'll probably be about 5 or so minutes, and you slow yourself down. Okay. Now, if anybody wants to try it, they can do that. So I'm going to do the counting. You probably can try it at where you are. And what I want you to do is when you let the breath out, kind of pay attention to how you feel as you're letting the breath out. So let's try it. So we're in for the count of 4. We go in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Repeat that 10 times. By the time you're finished, you should be calm enough to start working on your 6-step pause. So now I'll get into the 6-step pause. The 6-step pause, therefore, is a tool, like I said, which is developed by Mark Goulston, which would help you to look at your situation and kind of get through to yourself, because now you're calmer. You can start going through this process. By the time you're finished with the process, you should be at a position to make rational decision. What you're trying to do is to move yourself from your emotional brain to your rational brain, right? So that you can make decisions that are sensible and rational. Very many times we derail our goal by our own impulsive behavior. So this will help us to get our captain back in control of the plane and not the snake. So here we go. First step 1, practice physical awareness. So the first step is to identify the sensations that you're having. Give them a name. Are you feeling tense? Am I having a particular craving? My heart pounding? I feel lightheaded. This helps us to control those feelings. So identify the sensation. Step 1. Okay. Step 2, practice emotional awareness. So you say what you're feeling. Now try to attach an emotion to that sensation. Is it anxiety? Is it fear? Am I feeling ashamed, overwhelmed, angry? By naming the feeling, that will help to prevent you from getting an emotional hijacking. So name the feeling. I know one person, whenever I asked them how they felt, they always used to say overwhelmed, because that person couldn't differentiate these different types of feelings. So give a name to the feeling, practice the feeling. Then you would want to Next step, practice impulse awareness. So here's a question. This is what you need to say to yourself. This feeling is making me want to do this X, Y, Z. What is the feeling? So what is the impulse that is coming up? All right. What do you feel like doing? What's the behavior that is coming to mind? This feeling makes me want to. So being aware of your impulse will help you to resist it, right? So you will see what I'm doing here is showing you how you can bring yourself slowly back through the process of rational thinking rather than responding to the situation immediately. Next step, the fourth step, is to practice consequence awareness. So answer the question, if I follow through with this urge, what is likely to happen? What are the consequences of my doing this action, behaving this way? So that is consequence awareness. What is likely to happen? And then our next step would be practice solution awareness. In other words, what is a solution? Complete the sentence. A better thing to do would be. So we just said what you felt like doing. Now you're saying to yourself, I think this would be a better solution. So a better thing to do would be, and you list the thing that you think you should do that would be better than what just came to your mind. Now, we're all aware, every one of us, that when we're triggered in certain situations, especially things that make us angry or whatever, our first behavior really is not necessarily to pray for the person, right? There are lots of stuff that may go to your head to do. So we're looking for a better solution. Number 6, practice benefit awareness. So with benefit awareness, you're going to say to yourself, if I do the better thing, the benefits will be, and then you would list the benefits. If I do the better things, the benefits will be. So I'm just going to back up now and go through those steps again. 1, practice physical awareness. That is, you identify what sensations you're feeling, give them a name. Secondly, you practice emotional awareness. You attach an emotion to the sensation, anger, anxiety, fear, whatever it may be. 3rd step, you practice impulse awareness, where you say to yourself, this feeling makes me want to, and you identify what you feel like doing. Then 4th step, you practice consequence awareness. You answer the question, if I follow through with this urge, what is likely to happen? 4th step, complete the sentence. A better thing to do would be, and you state what you think would be the best thing to do. And 6, say to yourself, if I do the better thing, the benefits will be, and you list the benefits. Guaranteed by the time you're finished with that, your mood will probably change and you will be at a better place, because what you're doing here, what I'm taking you through, is that you're now moving from impulse to logical thinking. And that is where you want to be. You're moving from snake brain to the pilot being in charge. The director, the executive function is working. It is when we're operating under our emotional brain that we tend to make bad decisions. Some of these decisions we will not recover from. I want to emphasize that some of these decisions we will not recover from. They will follow us the rest of our lives. So it is very important that we take the pause between the stimulus and response, and go through these steps that I've just outlined to you in order to bring yourself back to thinking rational brain operating. By the time you get through this, like I said, you will know what you need to do to stay on course and avoid a potentially disastrous meltdown, and be calm enough to listen to your own advice. Right? This is also a great tool for those who have children. This is also a great tool to use to help your children through their upset. When they get into challenges, you teach them how to do this, get them in the habit of doing this when they're young, so that they will internalize it in their personality. And it will help them to keep cool and calm and collected under pressure when they are older. Okay, so I've covered in a brief way what I wanted to talk about this evening. There may be questions, and I think I wanted to leave time for questions, getting through to yourself, the 6-ball step. So if there are any questions, I would be happy now to answer those, and we can have a discussion on what we just went through.
Could I ask persons to raise their hands, and I'll just monitor from the raise hand feature. Okay, Brother Orlando's hand is up. You can go ahead, Brother Orlando. Brother Orlando? Anyone else? Don't be shy. Or you're so clear about the bond that no one else.
I covered a lot in a short time. So, right?
Okay.
Maybe I was going too fast. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, I see Big Ben's hand up. You may go ahead.
Brother Bodden.
Yes, sir.
I noticed the principle that you did there at the beginning with the breathing technique.
Yes, sir.
And the other steps following that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that something similar to the people that does this exercise program? What you call it now, where they incorporate breathing. It was, I know it just now, but it slipped my mind.
Yoga.
Yoga?
Yoga. Exactly, that's it.
If it is similar?
The principle on that, the same or similar to the yoga principles?
Not really. Breathing is a basic thing that everybody does, whether yoga or not. So the whole idea is really a biological principle, right? Now, yogas do use breathing because breathing properly will calm you, right? So they do breathing and the different stuff they do and chanting and all the rest of it. But actually, it is a basic principle used to calm people down. If you slow your breathing, you will calm yourself down, because normal thing that happens is that when people are under stress, like I said, they tend to breathe a lot from their chest, they hyperventilate, they don't get enough oxygen to their brain. And if you don't get enough oxygen to your brain, you can't think clearly. So the whole idea is to slow yourself down, help to reduce some of that adrenaline, and put you in a state where you are in control of your thinking and you're not operating from impulse per se. But yeah, it is used by yoga. It's used in different meditations by Buddhists, by whatever, but they use their breathing to do their meditation, and some people use it for other purposes.
So would you say then that these techniques are more in how can I say it? You're more in contact with your own body, physical reaction,
Yes.
and spiritually.
Well,
It's spiritually safe.
Yeah, this is not about spirituality. This is about controlling your physical body. And like if you found that you were getting angry about something, it helps you to control your impulses. That's all there is about it.
But that's what yoga is used for as well.
Yoga is used for different purposes. Yoga is not for impulse. Yoga is about, some of it is used for their worship of their beings.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's something totally different. If you understand yoga, there's a lot more that goes into it, than that.
Okay.
All right. Breathing is breathing, Brother Benny. We breathe and we worship our God in heaven. All right. If we weren't, we couldn't. So it's just basic control of your impulses by slowing what you want the body to do. Okay. When you go into the fight and flight mode, what happens is that the body is producing adrenaline, and that adrenaline and cortisol, which is a stress hormone, is driving you into these. You lose control. People lose control of themselves and they act impulsively. So somebody will hurt somebody in that state. Somebody might kill somebody in that state. What you want, or say something they shouldn't say. So what you want the person to do is to get calm so that you can reason with yourself. That's why I entitle it Getting Through to Yourself. You get what I mean? All right?
Yeah.
You want to be in a position where you can reason and you talk to yourself and you say, Brother Benny, that's not a good thing to do, because if you do it, these are the consequences. You get what I mean, right? But sometimes people do stuff and then afterward, they realize what the consequences are, then they are apologetic. You get what I mean, right? And the consequences might be that they hurt somebody, So you want people to have, to be able to get through to themselves and have control over themselves.
So this is a good technique for the politicians to practice then.
That's too high for me, Brother Benny. I really don't know. Here's what it is good for, though. Here's what it's good for. If you found that you were having trouble sleeping at night, right? And you lie in your bed and you do that breathing, as I told you, you would fall asleep pretty quickly. It would relax you, right? Sorry.
No, sorry, I thought it was finished.
Okay.
Because I have 2 more hands waiting.
Oh,
I am finished.
All right. Walker, then Tanique, then Camille.
Yes.
Is there a way that I can test other methods like the 6-step method actively? Not actively. Is there a way that I can test the 6-step method with things that I can do?
I missed the very last part. Your voice went a little fuzzy, but you can test. Okay, there's a way that you can test the method. I think you should test it on as often as you need to. Whenever you find yourself in a situation where you're having these emotional challenges, I think you should test it. The more you work with it, the easier it becomes. Let's say, for example, let's say that if you get angry, what kind of sensations do you have? You get what I mean? Normally, we don't pay attention to those things. So we start paying attention to some of the things that happen to us in these situations. So yes, you can test it and try it out and do it often. All right. And even with your children, like I said, you can help them to walk through these steps one by one. if you haven't written them down, I would repeat them at the end.
That was my question, sir, because I'd stepped away for a few minutes, and then I came back and I heard you talking about impulsive actions.
Mhm.
So I have a tendency, so I didn't get to hear those procedural steps that you were talking about. I have a tendency at times when I feel a little bit depressed or upset, I would probably go, shopping and spending money that I really don't have, or sometimes I might start to eating things that I shouldn't be eating and whatever. So
Right.
I'm asking you from a personal
Right.
perspective, what are those 6 steps so that I can test out the method?
Okay, sure. Okay, so the first thing is you want to identify, you want to practice physical awareness. You want to identify the sensations. What are you feeling when you're feeling that way? You said you might want to crave eating something, right? You have a craving. Some people might feel a bit dizzy or lightheaded. Some people might feel tension. For instance, there are people who what we call bruxism, who would bite down hard on their teeth and grind their teeth, right? Those kind of sensations, you want to pick that. And the second thing is to put an emotion to that. While you might have a craving, what are you really feeling? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling ashamed? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Does something happen that make you feel a certain way? So you try to attach a feeling now to that. So you have the craving. What am I feeling? Maybe anxious. Okay. Then the next thing you do is that this feeling wants you to do something. So in your case, you're saying, I want to eat. So this makes me feel like I want to eat. You're talking to yourself here. It's like you're having a conversation with yourself. Okay, that's important. Then after that, you answer yourself the question, if I follow through with this urge to eat, what is likely to happen? Maybe I'm going to put on some weight, all right? Or something like that. You might say that. Then you ask yourself a question, solution awareness, practice solution awareness. So what is the solution? A better thing to do would be. Now, a better thing to do would be maybe I should do 50 push-ups, or maybe I should walk around the block, or maybe I should go in the garden, you understand, and do something with my energy. So that's the 5th step. And then the 6th step is say to yourself, if I do the better thing, the benefits will be. What benefits would be if I did push-ups, I went for a walk in the neighborhood, or I went to the garden and work? What would be the benefits? And when you look at the benefits versus the pros and the cons, then the tendency will be, okay, let me go with the benefits. And therefore, you have given yourself a better chance. Normally, what happens now, when the snake is flying the plane, we only get to 1, right? You have, sometimes you don't even have the physical awareness where you have this craving, and then off you go to get something to eat. So the whole idea is to reason with yourself right through, to bring yourself back to your prefrontal cortex, to your executive brain. Let that be functioning and not your primitive brain, as it were. Does that help you?
Thank you. All of that is quite clear and helpful.
Okay.
All right. We have Camille, and then I have a question that somebody typed in the chat.
Yes.
Good evening. Elder Vaughn, I was trying to help you out. It's called mindful breathing, right?
Oh, mindful breathing.
Yeah, intentional breathing.
Right.
So it's not so spiritual. It's a physical practice for a physical result. Yeah.
Yes.
But it's just that you're intentional with it. So you're not just breathing sharp or just breathing anyhow. You're thinking about it. So you're mindful in it.
Yes.
Right.
Here's the thing about the counting. Why I ask people to count, and I usually use I instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. The reason for counting it is that it helps you to concentrate on the breathing and not anything else. Okay. Right. That
Right.
is important. That's what it says, mindful breathing.
It locks the brain
It
to
locks
it.
the brain to it, and it
Yes.
helps you to control what you're
Right.
thinking. That is very, very. Otherwise, your brain will skip off and go
In the middle of it.
in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
So you get that control, and then you're able
Yeah.
to walk through these questions because you now have control over your mind.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. So secondly, you mentioned the three phases of brain activity, right?
Uh-huh.
And so often, we go for the lower hanging fruits. We
Yes.
flip off and hang,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But someone in a situation where they are searching for that cognitive, that frontal brain activity to reach to the executive, to take full control. How would you advise in getting there? So you're fighting it. You know you want to. It's in your nature to just respond, to just go off. But you're trying. I know it comes with time and maturity. But how do you get there in a dire situation? And the impulse is, it could be because of heavy emotion,
Right.
or a situation that, you're locked into something, you're fighting. How do you tell someone to reach to that point, to grab after that high fruit?
Okay. A lot of what happens in the emotional brain, that hijacking the subconscious. So what happens is this amygdala, this particular part of our brain, is like a sentinel. It is the part of the brain that keeps scanning the environment for danger. So once it sees danger, it responds to that. It sends a signal to other parts of the brain, and it responds to that danger. Now, usually, like I said, a lot of it is subconscious. So a person has to become aware of what it is that is triggering them and why they're responding that way. A lot of times people have to get help with identifying why they respond a particular way, So it takes a little bit of time and practice, and sometimes you might need some help to get you to understand what is happening to you and why you're responding the way that you're responding. All right. And once you get there, then you will be aware of what the triggers are. And once they happen and you know what you're feeling, you understand why you're feeling that way, you can then talk yourself through that and start reaching to really the higher part of the brain to function. I don't know if that is clear to you.
No, man, it's clear. I'm just trying, because it's more a youth call. Just trying to see how you can, I'm looking at how you can break it to help a younger person, because sometimes, or most of the times, when the younger folks, we too as adults, but when they get an attack of an emotional, whether anger or whatever, it's usually from left wing, But in the middle of it, how do you get to that place where you can calm down? You're on a football field, something happened. It's high tension, high emotion. How do you get there?
You have to get there before you get there. Right?
Yeah.
Let me explain that to you. Yeah. It is something that you have to be, you can't get at it in the moment if you have never been practicing. You understand? So you have to become aware of what your challenges are and be working through them so that when you get in the situation, you already know what to do. Right? So that is the important thing. So if a person is having challenges with controlling their anger, they're having challenges not only on the football field, they're having challenges all the time. So they have to become aware that they're having these challenges and then start to work on adjusting their behavior and the way they approach it. So it takes time, right, to do that. It's a matter of practice, but you first have to become aware. Now, some people are not even aware. Now, I remember once I was speaking to a young person, and the person was telling me that they didn't get angry. And I'm saying, okay, yes. He said, no, I don't get angry. Anyhow, subsequently, I found out that the person did get angry, but they suppressed the anger because that person grew up in a situation where they used to see members of their family embroiled in fighting and using weapons and stuff like that. So that person had it in their mind that if they got angry, they would resort to violence. So they suppressed their anger, they thought, right? And said they never got angry. But yet the anger came out in other areas. Okay? That they weren't realizing that the anger was really coming out. So sometimes, like I said, people need to get some assistance with identifying these challenges as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We have one last question. Someone type it in the chat. What should you do if you take those steps and your partner sees it as a shutdown? Before you answer, Brother Vaughn, I just like to advise persons that Jordan has typed the 6 steps in the chat for you, so you can go back there and look at it. And also, this program is being saved to the Savannah website. I've had the link in it, Savannah SDHS. You can go back and look at the presentation and listen to this awesome presentation. All right, so you may go ahead, Brother Vaughn. What should you do if you take those steps and your partner sees it as a shutdown?
And your partner sees it as a shutdown. You need to then educate your partner. Just explain what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, how it helps you, and maybe then your partner should practice the 6 steps as well. So it will just be a matter of you speaking to it and explaining what you're actually doing. You're not shutting down, but I'm using this method to gain control of myself so that I can make positive decisions and enhance the relationship, you know? So an explanation is in order.
All right, I think we are enough for questions. I saw Loban's hand up. I don't know if she wishes to continue. I don't know if it's just brother or sister Loban.
Actually, brother, but when you actually told us that the link is there so we can recap in addition to the 6 steps, it tremendously helped out. But we actually joined late, so I have 2 questions. The first is and it may have been discussed already, but in terms of actually addressing your how would I see it? Your impulsive response to your child's consistent disruptiveness or misbehavior, in a sense, addressing it in a sense that you don't get angry and lose your temper. And also the second would be, how would you address maybe impulsive eating as well?
Okay. How old is the child?
8 years old.
8 years old. Okay. 8 years old, so child, you can reason with a child at 8 years old. But what I want to say to you is that usually we develop these things from quite early. So that is important to realize. I like to go back and internalize these things. Sometimes we have to look at how we deal with situations as well, you know, and sometimes our kids mimic those things. So it is, they just see that as a way of coping, and that's how they deal with it. So I usually like to start by looking first at myself to see, okay, am I projecting this? What out of this may be coming from my side or some adult side as well. You start there first. Once you get there, then you can get a better handle on it. 8-year-old, you can have a discussion with the 8-year-old, and you can walk that child through the steps of how they can control themselves. They'll be able to understand that. But be very patient with them. Is going to take a little bit of time. So try to be consistent with it. If you're consistent with it and you demonstrate it yourself, it is easier to get the child to be able to follow the methodology and have control over him or herself as well. That's important. So it's a matter of patience and trying to, in simple terms, explain to the child why certain things shouldn't be and how they should respond as well. The second part of your question, remind me again.
How to actually address impulsive eating.
Okay. Impulsive eating can be as a result of emotional pain. So you would have to find out what challenges the person has, a child. What is a child feel, if it's a child or adult? It can come from a sense of shame. So in order to respond to that shame, the person might eat as a means of making themselves feel better. So the eating is not about the food. The eating is about feeling better. So it can become addictive, as it were, as the person wants to feel relief from whatever emotional distress they're having. They found that food was something that caused them to feel better. So they just get hooked on that and will continue eating. So it is a matter of trying to figure out what distress the person is going through, what kind of emotional stress they're having, and then address that and not the eating. If you address that, then you will address the eating. But if you don't, then it will be very difficult to stop the person from eating impulsively, as you said, because they're responding to some immediate emotional threat, and that's why that is happening. It could be anything. Some people would eat, some people choose other methods to deal with that emotional pain. And if the person is an adult, I would suggest that an adult or child, if needs be, they see their counselor or something like that, and have a discussion with them so that they can come and understand what the underpinning emotional stress may be.
Okay, Jordan, your time.
Yep. Levon, 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned, or we went through the 6 steps. Just thinking outside of the box, for whatever reason, if environment and situation may dictate that you don't have, time is not your friend to go through this process, how do you approach that, or alternatives? Is there any, maybe 2 specific things that you could share that you may have to pick out of this in order to do, or
okay,
how can you approach a situation like that?
All right, you said time is not your friend. You mean that you have to respond?
You have to respond
in the situation?
And yes, like rapidly.
Rapidly.
Yes.
Okay. First thing, get yourself under control by just doing your breathing. You might not be able to do it as long. You get what I mean? So get your adrenaline settled down. That would be the number one thing. Exhale, as it were. Right? And once you do that, you would find that you'll be a little bit clearer because you're getting oxygen to your brain, right? Yeah. And in the process, I'm not sure how many situations you could be in, where you don't have time to respond, right? But if that is the case, then I would say the critical thing to do there is to bring your breathing under control. so that you're aware, you're getting oxygen to your brain, and therefore your ability to think would improve significantly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's a very important point that you pointed out there. I know personally I've been in a situation like that, and that is the first thing that I did that really helped just control that breathing to get that oxygen flowing and kind of give your brain a few mental seconds to process. And then as the situation maybe dragged on where I can now have more time to follow through with the other steps, then you can continue the process. But I think that's an important first step that we can try and take. I mean, just thinking out of the box of, okay, for example, I brought the question up, maybe a person is a police officer or a prison officer that will have to deal, or a doctor, EMS, they have to deal with something rapidly.
Right, correct.
In the split second. The other thing, if I find myself to be a naturally pessimistic person, I'm looking through your steps and you're saying, think of alternatives that may be better. I'm a naturally pessimistic person and I can't find any better alternative. How do you approach somebody like that, or what should I do? Okay.
Naturally pessimistic person has a bit more of a challenge, but this will help pessimism, because if you practice it, if you look at it, like for instance, when you say, what are the consequences of my making this decision? You understand? That is not, it's really not pessimistic. You really have to give a rational response to that. You get what I mean? If I do a better thing, if I follow through with this, what is likely to happen? If you ask yourself that question, that brings you to reality, whether you're a pessimistic person or not. If you drive at 60 miles an hour, what is likely to happen? You understand? Right? So that is a realistic, it's bringing to reality that either the police will get over speeding or you might get into a terrible accident. So even if you're a pessimistic person, this can drive you out to the pessimism, because now instead of you getting stuck, well, the worst case scenario, you're actually forced to ask yourselves questions that would put you in the real world.
Okay.
You get what I mean, right? Yeah. So pessimism would occur most when you're allowed to kind of feed on your own emotions. You follow?
Yeah.
This prevents you from feeding on your own emotions. That's to move out to your snake brain and really come to your executive brain. Okay.
Good. Thank you for that. So we're about ready to close off. I just want to put a last call if there are any further questions. Any person want to ask another question before we move into close? Give you that opportunity next couple of seconds.
Now, before you close, Jordan, I just want to say that it is very important that when we learn new skills, that we practice them.
Yeah.
Practice them day in and day out until they become second nature to us. These are things that help us make proper decisions for our lives. A lot of people get derailed from their goals in life because they're not able to control their emotions. They make, like I said, very bad decisions that affect them for the rest of their life. But if we really practice these things, be conscious about them, and when situations arrive, go through the steps in your head. Sometimes you might get it right, sometimes you don't, but you keep practicing until you find it becomes second nature to you. And that is the way you live your life. Here is when I come into a stressful situation, I have decisions to make, and things that look like it's going all over the place. Let me pause and follow that's why it's called the 6-step pause, because it allows you enough time to think it through and make sensible decisions. And you can't get through those 6 steps just in a hurry per se, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keyword pause.
Pause.
Keyword
Yes.
pause.
Keyword is pause. Yes.
Good point. Good point.
Uh-huh.
One quick question before you leave.
Yes.
Can you address anxiety or panic attacks where it's concerned, and also how do we deter ourselves from over analyzing another person's opinion or perception of us?
Okay. Anxiety is usually about the future. We're worried about something that has not happened, you know. So you're kind of going to the future, not living in the present. Generally, there are different types of anxiety, but generally, that is what it is. Fear of what might happen that has not happened. Sometimes that is a learned behavior. Sometimes we might develop that based on things that may have happened in our lives, whether we had a traumatic event in our lives and stuff like that. We can find ourselves getting anxious about it. The way to deal with anxiety is operating at the lower brain level as well. So the way to deal with anxiety is to recognize that you're worrying about the future. And that's what Jesus said, don't bother about tomorrow. Now, it's kind of easier to say that. But to recognize that is about tomorrow and not today, and try to live in the present and let tomorrow take care of itself. But for some people, sometimes, depending on their level of anxiety, they might even need some help with that. Sometimes they might need a little medication, and then they would need some counseling therapy to help them deal with the underlying cause of the anxiety. And part of that, you said, is like overthinking what other people are thinking about you. And that comes when we have a challenge with our self-esteem. So we don't feel as good about ourselves as we should for a number of different reasons. So that is linked to the anxiety as well. That creates the anxiety because you're wondering what people are thinking about you. You're anxious about that. It is just their opinion. It is not a fact. So a person's opinion should not be, it's just their opinion. It's really not the truth. But a person who's suffering from anxiety can't make that distinction. They have to be taught how to separate that, how to separate what is real, true from what, and the facts from what a person feels. So, like I said, most of the times, depending on if you're getting to the stage where you're having panic attacks, then you're at a stage where you need some help, some outside help. If you're getting panic attacks, when you get to that stage, you're going to need some assistance with that. You know, one of the things, coming back to the breathing exercise, that is actually a good thing to help you with your anxiety. And if you're paying attention to your physical signs, your physical awareness, then normally you can kind of sense when anxiety is coming on. And if there's a sign that lets you know that you're becoming anxious, you could go to your breathing exercise to help slow that down and help control you from getting anxious. If you do that, then you won't go to the panic phase. But if you don't control your breathing, you will start hyperventilation, and then you would easily panic. So try to be aware of how you feel when you're getting anxious or when you feel a panic attack is coming on, and try to stymie it off by doing the breathing exercise. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, does that help? Did I cover everything you wanted, or I missed something?
Oh, sorry, you're on mute. Oh, yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you for those questions, everyone. If there's nothing further, we will move to close off. So I'll invite Sister Shania, one of our assistant AY leaders at Bodden Town, to do our short devotional reading and pray for us.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
The closing devotional is called 133 Days on a Raft. In November 1942, a 25-year-old Chinese seaman named Poon Lim was working as a steward on a British merchant ship called the SS Ben Lomond. After leaving Cape Town, the vessel was torped by a German U-boat near South Africa's coast. As the ship sank, Poon Lim grabbed a life jacket and jumped overboard just as the ship's boilers exploded. Poon Lim floated around naked in the Atlantic for 2 hours, then spotted an empty life raft and pulled himself aboard. That was the beginning of one of the most amazing sagas of survival at sea ever recorded. He was thankful for the meager supplies in the lifeboat: a canvas sail, chocolate, a bag of sugar, some flares, a jug of water, a tin of hard biscuits, and a flashlight. 7 days into his ordeal, he frantically tried to get the attention of a ship, but it just passed by. Then he spotted 7 U.S. Navy patrol planes. He sent up flares, but they did not see him. A German U-boat spotted him, but chose to leave him to fate instead of rescuing or killing him. Poon Lim could have given up and died, but instead decided to use his skills and limited supplies to stay alive. He rationed himself a biscuit and few mouthfuls of water a day. He made a fish hook from the flashlight spring, used hemp from the rope line, and a piece of biscuit for bait. When he caught a fish, he caught it with a tin can knife and dried it. He swam daily to keep his muscles fit and body clean, while watching for sharks and staying tethered to the boat. He caught rainwater in a piece of canvas. When a storm spoiled his fish and fouled his water, Lim, barely alive, caught a bird and drank its blood to survive. Another time, he hooked a 30-pound shark and ate the liver. On April 5th, 1943, when he staggered ashore in Brazil, he'd lost 20 pounds. Poon Lim survived a record of 133 days alone on the Atlantic. He said, "I hope no one will ever have to break that record." Jesus said, speaking of the last days, "He who endures to the end shall be saved." In our sin-plagued world, we face difficulties like waves of the sea. But if we cling to Jesus, he will keep us afloat through every trial and give us the strength to endure. Matthew 24:13 says, "But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved." Now, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all of your many blessings, for giving us the opportunity to join to discuss this topic today. Please bless each family represented here and be with us for the rest of the week, and help that whatever may do may be for your honor and glory. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Shania. We want to thank Elder Vaughn for that very informative presentation. And we want to thank Savannah for joining us. Sister Opal, you want to come on and bring greetings as we close?
Yes, Jordan. I'm happy that we had this program. It was so informative. And I hope that we can do this in the future, another time.
Yes.
All right. And just reminding everyone that the link is in the chat. So if you click on the link now, you can take it to the Savannah site where you'll find the program that is there. And you will also, Jordan already had put the 6 there. So if you want to quickly go, I don't know if you want to give the folks a few minutes just to, while people are going off, they can just copy up the information in the chat. But I did enjoy this program, I'm certain.
Likewise,
because we had up to 59 persons and most persons stayed on. So I know that they were really blessed by the program.
Yep. We appreciate everyone that participated. And thank you for your questions, your participation, and again, Brother Vaughn, for that very knowledgeable presentation. So we wish you guys a good rest of your evening. For those that are going to football tonight, we start at 8 p.m. at the SIFA field. So inviting you guys to come out and support the various teams and churches, and have a good and safe, productive week ahead. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Do you have footballs, Jordan?
Yes, we do.
Has a match? Oh, and
8 o'clock
Savannah also
tonight.
has a match. So I guess everyone can go out. So both of us have matches this evening.
8 and 9 o'clock. Yeah, we start at 8 and you guys are at 9.
Have fun. We old people will stay home.
Share the results.
Okay.
Snapshot. Snapshot the results. No problem.